My name is Holly Miller, and I identify as a lesbian.
My name is Jessica Payne Miller, and I am a proud lesbian.
What brought us to this church was pickleball, actually. We play pickleball with many of our neighbors where we live. And one day we were talking with one of the women that we play with, and a little bit about kind of our struggles overall with finding a church family where we felt comfortable. She, maybe a week later, invited us to this church. First arriving here, it was similar to other churches where we have first gone in with skepticism. Defensiveness, I think. Not a lot of hope, really, to tell you the truth. But we wanted to, we love Sarah, who we play pickleball with, and wanted to give it a try. We had been in this church before, but for basketball. One of the services that they do is upward basketball. And my wife was a coach, and our daughter played. And I always felt a level of comfort in this church, and I felt good in this church. So I actually had looked up previously what this church was about, and I actually looked on the website, but I did not see anything that was affirming, so we didn't try it. And I just moved on. And it wasn't until, a couple of years later that we were invited by one of the members here.
I was a bit more leery to begin with. I appreciated the invitation that we received from our friend out on the pickleball court. I thought that she was very nice, as I think many people are very nice, especially in a small town. But the nice goes away as soon as they find out that I'm a lesbian. The nice goes away when they find out that I'm married to a woman. The nice goes away when they find out that we have an adopted child that we've brought into this sin. I felt like it was just another invitation that was only going to be extended just as long as the truth of who I am didn't come out, as long as I kept my relationship with my wife quiet, then I would be welcomed in the church. And I wasn't quite sure that I wanted to take that step again, only to find out that I wasn't good enough for Jesus' love.
I'm Nancy Kelland, and I'm a pastor. I've been a pastor in the United Methodist Church for over 30 years. I'm retired. I was here originally appointed in 2006, and I served till 2010, and then was sent to another church. And then after I retired and had been retired for a little while, I came back here as an associate, and then became part of this discernment process as we went along. As I've known them, and those that had been members here a long time before I came, this inclusivity is in their soul. It's just in the DNA of this congregation. When I was here before, there were gays, lesbians who joined. However, the atmosphere really within the larger church wasn't open as much as we should be. And yet, warmly accepted here and part of the ministry here. Then, for a while, for about 12 years, there were no persons, gay, lesbian, who felt felt the desire to join, I would say. So when this time came where we were presented with an opportunity to proclaim this is what we are, who we are and what we want to be, who we want to be. The discerning process was very difficult, and when it came time for the vote, it was very close. But we remained United Methodist Church.
You know, I was very fortunate to be in a family that made it a priority to go to church each Sunday. So I was able to learn from a very young age just how beautiful and wonderful Jesus is. And I felt so empowered by that. Like, you could go through anything in your life and you have Jesus on your side. Like, totally loving, totally supportive. You know, it didn't matter what you did. He died for our sins and he loved us. And as the years went on, I realized that not everybody gets Jesus's love. That's what I thought. I came out to my parents when I was 13 years old. It was not very well received. I had to go and talk to the pastor of our church, and I was told that I would no longer be able to work with the children in the church if I chose this lifestyle. And I had been very active with the youth in our church. So that was, I guess, probably the first time that I felt pretty discriminated and not worthy of Jesus's love. Was at a pretty young age. And then that continued, that idea kind of continued throughout the years. I was fortunate enough to earn a scholarship to play volleyball and basketball, two sports that I adored. Went to a university, was very excited about having the opportunity, and was forced to leave the university and lost my scholarship because they found out that I was a lesbian, and it was a private Christian university. And so I actually had the president of the university tell me that I had two options. I could either go through a multi-step program to become straight, or I could leave the university because they were not going to have openly lesbian student athletes in the program. I did not go back to church for a very long time. I did not feel like it was a place for me. I felt very oppressed in the church. I felt discriminated against. I have always been proud of who I am until I step foot in a church, and then I don't feel proud anymore. I feel like I have to hide who I am. It was when I started dating my now wife. She was a member of a church, and I thought, you know, I'll give it a try again. The reason why I did is because it was a mega church, and I thought we could just disappear among the ranks in the church. No one would ever ask, and we would never have to tell. But that's not how it works for me, and pretty immediately I wanted to get involved. I wanted to serve in missions, and I found a mission that really spoke to my heart, and it was working with individuals that were homeless, needed food, and needed salvation. And I thought, this is a perfect fit for me. And so I served in that ministry for about a year, and had another opportunity to serve with the youth. And I found out about a week after I applied for that ministry, I had an associate pastor call me and say, "You are no longer allowed to serve in any ministries of this church you are a lesbian and you have no space in the ministries in this church. You are welcome to continue to come to church, but you are not welcome to serve. And we left that church and found it very, very difficult to join another church moving forward.
I would say that skepticism changed pretty immediately the first day we came.
And if you're comfortable, like what changed it? What?
The people here. So it felt different from the jump.
Yeah.
So, though we walked in with some skepticism, it did not take long to feel the acceptance, the warmth, the welcome. And very different than at least what I have ever felt before coming into a church. It's not the way I grew up. It's not the way I felt in any church, but it just felt different here in a church that had cast their votes, and in a group of individuals who have struggled with the process, made their votes and decided to stay, and we're super excited to have us here as we were, and we've never felt that before. And it's something that I had hoped for, my whole life, is to be involved like I was as a youth. And so it's just been a true blessing.
I will tell you that almost the second we walked through the door, God was communicating to my heart. I had so much anxiety on the 10-minute car trip over here, parking in the parking lot and walking through the doors in which I knew I would be walking with my child, who we so desperately want to protect and not have her have to feel the shame that we've felt. And I thought, what are we doing? Bringing her into another place in which she is going to have to feel bad about who her parents are. And ironically, as soon as we walked through the door, it was this weight lifted off of my shoulders. I couldn't feel my heartbeat beating out of my chest. I felt very comfortable. I had numerous members of the congregation come up and introduce themselves and say, "You're new here." And it felt very welcoming, and I just felt this peace in my heart that I know God placed there.
I mean, to tell you the truth, it really kind of felt like a no-brainer. It felt natural. Jess and I talked about it. We were both on the same page pretty quickly. And one day when we were getting ready to come, we just started talking about it. Should we go up front and join the church? And we were both on the same page and just felt just a solid, I'll speak for me, I just felt a solid peace around it, that this is where we should be.
It was really phenomenal. My wife and I briefly talked about it, and we kind of checked in with each other, like, "Hey, are you feeling how amazing this is?" "Yes, so am I." And we just felt very moved that day. Couple of weeks into January, we had new pastors. We just felt very moved that day would be the day. And kind of funny enough, our daughter was sitting at the end of the pew, and so we tapped her and said, we're going to go up and join. She said, today? I said, yes, today. We're joining today. Okay. It was just, if you've ever had an experience in your life where there's absolutely no question in your heart if you're doing the right thing, that was us joining this church. There was absolutely nothing that could have prevented us from joining this church. We stood up in front of the congregation, and I will never forget the love that was on so many people's faces as I connected my eyes with their eyes. Just this absolute, total joyous look of affirmation. We love you. And I felt that, and it was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. And it happened in church. And I am so thankful for that.
They were excited. There was a lot of clapping and a lot of welcoming and hugging and crying. It was amazing. It felt so good. It was just a confirmation of, this is it. I was surprised by the reaction. And I was surprised by the reaction of people that were older and straight and coming to church, in this church, probably for years and years. I was shocked. I was really I still am processing some of it, to tell you the truth, because it was really a shocker.
I see them. I know where they're sitting, and this isn't the first time, but it had only been a couple of times. So we've extended the call, and I'm looking at them, and my heart knows. I can see it on their faces. I knew, my soul knew it. And so I'm anticipating they're getting ready to do this as they're kind of looking at each other. And they come up, and we are just hugging and tears, and the entire congregation clapped, stood up. It was like one huge embrace. The joy of that moment was incredible. And it was like, this is what we've been fighting for. This is what we're about. This is what we're proclaiming now. And here it is. Here it is. It's happening right now, right here in this place. And so, of course, everyone welcomed them with open arms. And Reagan, Reagan and John, Reagan and I were, as new pastors, she's overwhelmed too. And I, of course, just know this is who we are, but I'm so thrilled. So we just hung around after everyone had left, and we're back in the office in the choir room, just both of us are looking at each other just like we're stunned. We're not even sure what to say or how to say it. We are stunned. And she said, I just, we can't, we're both crying. Never forget this moment. And how do we describe? I said, here's how it is for me. My oldest grandson is biracial and he's gay. There was a period of time where I didn't know that. And so when I found out, he's a grown young man. He was in Northern California. So the next time I saw him, when he knew that I knew, this hug was incredible. I will never forget it as long as I live. It was the most awesome hug I have ever experienced in my life, and we just wouldn't let go of each other, and the depth of that was incredible into his soul and mine. So I said to Reagan, the best way I can describe this Sunday and what just happened is that hug. It was like one big hug, just like that one. And it was like, not only here, right in this congregation, it was like the whole kingdom of God portals had opened as wide as they could be, and it was one big hug into the kingdom. And that's that was it. And we got to be a part of it. I'll never forget it, never. It was wonderful.
It is probably the most empowering experience I've ever felt in my life. And I would not know that had I not experienced this. I think I would have said 25 other things in my life were the most empowering, and it is just simply not the case. To feel the love of Jesus Christ and to feel it in a congregation is the most uplifting and empowering feeling that you can have. And it is inspiring, it is motivating. You immediately want to spread Jesus' love to others because you feel it and you're receiving it from people that are on this journey with you. And it is the best experience I've ever had.
I wish the broader church knew the difference that they could make in people who have been ostracized, oppressed because of sexuality, gender identity, the difference that they could make in lives is out of this world. It's different for individuals who, there's been a lot of oppressed peoples in our nation, and there's been a lot of oppressed peoples all over the world. But if you look at different in groups of people that have been oppressed, they typically can be with their own, who they identify with, as well as in a church. So if you experience racism as someone who's African American or Black, you have your family and you have the church. It's different. So where do people who are oppressed because of their sexuality or their identities, where do they go? You know, where do they have to go? It's bars, it's festivals, oftentimes is environments that aren't the healthiest. Folks who struggle with even being accepted and loved by their own families, don't have a church to go to oftentimes. So the ability for churches to reach out, the broader church, to reach out and be inclusive could make a dramatic impact for individuals in their lives, in their salvation, in their beliefs. And this is what this church is doing here. And we wanted to be a part of it.
We can most fully be the church, the love of Jesus alive in this place when we're more inclusive in every way. My experience of being called to the ministry was in Haiti. There were a mission team of 12 of us, and we each took a little pocket cross with us, and we were working with children, helping build a school. And so on the last day, we were going to take a child that we had become close to and give them the pocket cross. Nobody had the same culture. Nobody had the same color skin. Nobody could speak the same language. I pulled out my pocket cross. I put it in the hand of a little girl, Leonie, and she took that cross and first she just clutched it in her hand, and then she opened her hand and looked at it, and she looked at me and she said the only word I ever heard her say in English, love. What I would say to this church and what I would say to any church or to anyone is the more we come to the place where we're not alike, the more we understand that it is the love of Christ that binds us together and makes us one. So the more inclusive we can be, the more we will understand and be the love of Christ.
If I could tell the broader church one thing, I think it would just be a reminder of why we come to church every Sunday or Wednesday or Friday nights, etc. We come because we want to walk with Jesus. And Jesus didn't exclude anyone. He was our first teacher. It's who we're supposed to be following. It's who we're supposed to model. And Jesus would have never excluded anyone for anything. Yet over the years, that's changed. Churches are using Jesus' name to exclude and to oppress. And quite honestly, I think Jesus would not be very happy about that. I think you'd be pretty angry that churches were using his name to discriminate against anyone. And so I guess I would just challenge the broader church to remember who Jesus is, what he stands for, and what he's empowering all of us to do is to walk with him and spread his love. And that's what my hope is.